Hi, and welcome to another episode of Reclaimed. I want to welcome Mindy Honcoop back to the podcast for our second session together. Mindy wears a lot of hats as a fractional chief people officer, HR strategist, advisor, founder of Agile in HR, and co founder of Alt HR Live. She's also serving as the customer success leader for Me Bebot. She's on the board of Love Justice International and is a staff member at North Village Church. So, Mindy, welcome back to the podcast.
It is such a pleasure to be here. I'm just as you go through the list, I'm just like, most people don't go through the list, and so when I just hear about all the incredible places that I have the blessed opportunity to play, it's like, I'm just like, "Oh my goodness." Like, who I feel like it's such a gift. I feel it's such a gift. I love it.
Well, and that's not even all of it because just perusing things that you're involved in outside of those areas, the podcasts you're on, the LinkedIn lives, all the other things that you do, it's pretty
Mm.
incredible. In fact, I was just asking you before we jumped on, have you been in back to back to back today? So I know you're very busy, and I appreciate your time being with
Ah,
the podcast.
oh my goodness, it's a joy. I can't wait for this one, so
Well, today, as a reminder, we're going to talk about a few topics that sort of add on to our last conversation. So, last time we spoke about burnout, self awareness, and personal development. So, today, the second half of that conversation is people pleasing, decision making, and networking.
Mm.
And the first topic that I want to cover is the people pleasing topic. And as I was thinking about this, for me, achievement was the currency for love for a very long time. And people pleasing became for me about achievement and love. So if I wasn't making someone happy, then they might remove their love or presence from me. And then I would be alone. And so I'm curious how people pleasing has shown up for you, or how do you define it?
Oh, yeah, it was a survival mechanism, just as you so well articulated. It was from a child whose father left in an unfortunate way and kind of put together my sense of self-worth,
Mhm,
through achievement and, is what needed to happen in order for people to stay,
mhm,
to be around. And so that became very much around setting really high goals, and but also came about reading a room and being able to understand and really quickly, like, where people are, and then, how to then, stay small, to not push past anyone's, um I guess, anyone's sense of comfort.
yeah, yeah,
And right? And and yet, because I was so motivated to achieve, there's also the sense of, well, in order to be able to get to that outcome, how do I not go past the comfort level, but how do I need to align to be able to get buy-in towards a shared outcome? Which
mhm,
is really fascinating. I think the people pleasing and was, very much debilitating. I was not healthy, but there's so many healthy things that also came out of it that today it helps me kind of be comfortable around naysayers, because I was in a room reading the room and helping find the things in them that I could find, where I could have that door of entry into a conversation that would bring them along and stay within relationship.
a lot of what you said resonates with me in terms of reading the room and looking for people's approval,
Mm,
for sure.
I think the unhealthy part of it truly, it got up to a point in my career where you need to take up space and be okay taking up space and creating a level of discomfort, a healthy level of discomfort, and learning how in that discomfort we can hold conversation and have differences of opinion in order to get to a better outcome that I didn't even know was possible, but because of the conversation, we are able to realize that together, which I wasn't able to do until I started to be able to kind of recognize the people pleasing survival mechanism and replace it with a healthier way of being.
Yeah. And I think part of people pleasing is like there's a vigilance that comes with it too, right? You're kind of constantly, like you said, scanning the room, kind of looking for those approvals.
Mhm.
Am I making people comfortable or unhappy? Was there someone in your life or someone that you looked at that had kind of this tall measurement of success or high measure of success that you were kind of trying to strive for? I mean, how did you get that?
Yeah. Oh, the sense of like I want to, I want to beat everyone's expectations of me.
Yeah, yeah.
It kinda came from low expectations, Lindsay. I had, you know, obviously people who believed in me. I had my grandparents who are incredible, and they, you know, they really had a sense of, like, wow, that of love for me that I could, if I put my mind to anything and really tried and put the work in, that it could happen. But there's a lot of people in school because I grew up in a Dutch Reformed community, and I went to a school that was associated, a private school. I was a scholarship kid associated with the church. So I was from the first divorced family in this community. So I was the divorce kid. I had the
Uh-huh.
label divorce kid. And at the time back then, I mean, it now is so much more, you wouldn't feel like it's this weird thing, but I felt like I had this big old label on my forehead, and a lot of people didn't expect much from me. It was, oh, you're the divorce kid. You're going to end up doing drugs and, you know, not having much of a life. And so for me, I'm a competitive spirit, I think, just so it was a little rebellious nature in me. I was like, I'm going to prove them wrong.
Yeah.
I was like, "Who are you to put that on me?" And I was like, "I'm gonna prove you wrong." And so every teacher was about, like, being the top of the class, like, being the grade A student, being able to, be somewhere and be able to accomplish the things. My uncle, for me, also was a huge role model. He, like, graduated, with, honors, and so I very much quickly, as a very young person, I said, "I'm gonna be a valedictorian of my high school. I'm going to graduate with honors from the college that from college." I ended up going to the same college my uncle did. But I just for me, I just kind of like, "Okay, what is the most that I can, what is the what okay, if I wanna do this, then I'm gonna go further. If I wanna dance, I'm going to dance in a dance company."
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny because you said kind of making people comfortable and you're people pleasing. And I guess that is part of it, like making people comfortable. Or for me, I think it was not being sort of out of turn. Does that make sense? So I'm, behave the right way, act the right way, dress the right way, kind of create this image. But I don't remember it being, something where I didn't feel like I could achieve because I might make someone uncomfortable. I actually think there was a lot of, to your point, it drove achievement for me,
Mhm.
and I have a little bit of that too. Tell me I can't do something, and I kinda dig in my heels, and I'm gonna show you that I can. So, I can totally relate to that, but, there's that side of you, but then there's the other part of you that I want to achieve, but I want to achieve within the parameters of what
Yes.
is sort of acceptable
Mhm.
to you,
Mhm.
person that I'm trying to make happy. And that's
Yeah.
come in the form of family members, even bosses,
Yeah.
at work, and trying to make all the people happy. And what I found is it made me very unhappy in the
Unhappy.
midst.
And it's just such a weight and a
Mhm.
burden. And you overthink everything because 'cause you're literally playing out all the different scenarios.
Yeah.
And and that's a lot. Like, as you get more senior in your career, there's only, so far that gets you before it's crippling. And then you
Yeah,
became so afraid and so hesitant, and as you grow in leadership roles, that then becomes your Achilles heel.
absolutely. Yeah. Do you think people pleasing is always a trauma? I mean, I know you're not a doctor,
I'm not.
therapist, but like, do you think it's always a trauma response?
I think it's a really interesting question, and so part of me also just wonders too, is it, maybe the different on a continuum, of people pleasing? Because I do think there's some things also in the community that I grew up in the religious community. There's also something around, you know, wanting to always help others, always wanting to, serve others, always wanting to, be a certain way. Um,
Putting
so
others before yourself
Yeah,
is like a big
exactly. Thank you for
mantra, right?
giving me
Like,
the words that I
yeah,
wasn't
yeah,
being able to find.
yeah,
So I guess it could come from a sense of that too in some ways. But I think, coupled doubled down with the childhood bruising, it
yeah,
it magnifies.
yeah. Yeah, and I like you had mentioned fear because, you had talked when we were chatting earlier a little bit about the scarcity mindset and how
Yes.
people pleasing
Hmm.
can kind of spiral you. You can kind of get into this spiral. And I definitely found myself in that spiral. And then it's like the harder you grip and the more fear you have, almost like the worse the behavior becomes, right?
Yes, a
Because
hundred
you're so
percent.
afraid that if you do one thing off, you're like everything's going to crumble.
Yeah, yeah. And then it's like, what choice do I make? Then you just get paralyzed or frozen, um, and your volume starts to decrease of your voice,
Yeah.
and when we're in less than mindset and in scarcity, you know, you also start to get paranoid. So you start like anticipating things that actually may not come into fruition, but because we are in less than, we may actually create, okay, I'm not gonna say this right. Is it false, um, prophecies that are not true?
Yeah.
Yeah. What is the right way to say that, Lindsay?
Um,
Self-fulfilled prophecies. That's
yes,
what it is. That's
self-fulfilling
what it is.
prophecies. I like that. Yes.
Because in our mind, we've created these stories and these narratives and of what could happen. Because fear, when we think about, well, what is fear? Fear is of a future that hasn't yet happened.
Mhm.
Or it's
Mhm.
not even real. We're afraid of
Yeah.
something that
Yeah.
we're not living it right now, but it becomes so real in our mind. It
Yeah.
feels as if we're there in the future, but it hasn't even happened.
Yeah. I I think for me, I was so afraid of not being loved. That really
Mhm.
was um driving the people pleasing, and to the point where you're not able to be confrontational, and I don't mean that like you're yelling at someone, but just
Alright.
addressing an issue, addressing how you made me feel or how I feel about something or what's my real opinion, what's my voice versus just
Yeah.
parroting what I think you want me to say. And
Yeah.
then you get into losing who you are because you've been working so hard to be something that someone else wants you to be. That then you wake up and you're like, I don't even know what my favorite color is or what I like
Yep.
to eat or,
Yes.
whatever. Like it's
Yes.
even as basic as that.
Yeah, yeah, and you start to weave these things into, half truths. Like, okay, the when you're trying to unweave all the ways in which you people please, because it will take on different ways of behaving, you can be
Mhm.
like, but I'm doing that because I care about someone. I'm doing that
Yeah.
because I I because I really do like want to, be liked. Like, I'm
Yeah.
afraid of rejection.
So you talked a little bit about we talked about getting to know yourself and maybe not knowing yourself as part of people pleasing. And as a leader, I think one of the most important things you can do as a leader is know yourself and be confident in yourself, understand your boundaries, how you work, what your strengths are. So how does people pleasing show up when you're a leader, you're ignoring your own capabilities, limits, boundaries? What ends up happening to you as a leader, but then maybe to your team as sort of that degrades how you're showing up?
Mhm. Yeah. I think when I first started becoming a people leader is when I really noticed how people pleasing got me up to the point of being a people manager, a manager
Yeah.
of people, and how I needed to really reflect on how it is now inhibiting me from being actually able to help people.
Mhm.
And it was because of I as a people leader, I need to have difficult conversations. I need to be able to sit with people in in conversations and ask powerful questions that create self-reflection that they may not want to enter into, and how to
Yeah.
create a safe space and hold that space and be brave to understand with someone, hey, help me understand, what's coming up for you right now. We just were in that meeting, and what were your thoughts on that meeting? And being able to talk with someone through, hey, you know what? Yeah, that meeting didn't feel good. It's not usually who I am. I'm going through a lot at home, but they're not gonna like the questions. And so it is not people pleasing, but
Right.
it's more
Yes.
caring because for us to become aware, for us to then create those moments with someone that they're able to finally have a fresh perspective and self-awareness that then can inform together, well, what might it look like to show up differently? Like how would you have liked that to look different? What would a successful meeting look like if we were to do that again? And
Right.
what might we try out next time to do that? And how might I support you as a manager in that versus just glossing over and saying and not even pointing out the, opportunity for improvement. And so, that is very quickly when I realized that, as a leader, I in order for my team to be able to grow and realize their full potential, which is what my heart is for people, I want to help people realize, like, how do we move from where we're at today to a future desired state, which is literally social work, what I went to school for. Like, you can't be comfortable. Like, you have to have discomfort to grow and learn.
Yeah. So for people pleasing, I mean, is there an antidote? Is there a way that, if someone's sitting and listening thinking, "Oh, that sounds a lot like me," or "I'm struggling with the same things." I mean, I would say I'm better at it, but I'm not cured. I mean, I still find
Mm,
myself,
same.
doing things, but I think I'm more aware, and so I can then talk myself through, "Okay, you're doing this," or I almost like I talk to myself as a third person, like, "I can see that you're doing XYZ. Why are you doing that?" And
Yeah,
talk myself through it, whereas before, I just it was, like, just my operating, rhythm, and
yeah.
I wouldn't have even noticed it.
No, no, I would never have noticed it. And I think, actually even going back through the social work program, I probably, you know, that was probably even some of the start. In social work, we had a lot of the times we were writing papers on our own self, like trying out different techniques and
Mhm,
frameworks on our own self.
mhm.
And that probably has, is in using that, it really helped me, be able to start to initiate that conversation with myself to create self-awareness. you know and we can do some of that on our own, but sometimes it's so ingrained if it has come from a place from the past that is less than. We may need someone that is an expert to help us because there might be some deeper healing that needs to
Yeah,
happen.
yeah,
um, there may be, things that are going to go beyond just a journal. But I think it does start with self-awareness and realizing that we need help and taking the time to slow down enough to see how is this showing up. And then a lot of times it may even feel like in your body that you're holding yourself back. Like I wanted to say something, why didn't I? Or I
Yeah.
wanted to say something, but I couched it. Like I made my voice smaller and that didn't feel good.
Yeah.
What led to that? What was a trigger for that?
Yeah. And I think just acknowledging, I mean, look, there's going to be moments where that fear is driving us to make some decisions that are intentionally protective. Like we may be in a situation where we do need our bodies to say, don't just blurt that out or don't just say that thing because there is real consequences maybe on the backside. Especially if you're thinking about a work environment where, maybe you are in a position where like, I recognize it, but I know maybe I need to be holding back a little bit right now, just given the circumstances. So I think it's also about knowing when to dial it up, when to dial it back, all
Yes.
those things. But I do think the underlying, like, why do I operate that way, and going to therapy, it's been hugely important. And I don't know, to your point, I don't know that I could have gotten where I am now if I hadn't have done that work, because there was underlying stuff that was causing me to think that way that I
Yeah.
needed to work through.
And it's so important because I remember when I was a kid, my grandma would always say, Mindy, when you're good, you're really, really good. But when you're bad, you're really, really bad. And that often was like when we hold back our voice, there's like buildup that starts to happen like a volcano and then it erupts. And
Yeah.
that would be the Mindy's bad.
Yeah.
And And this has really, like, helped, with people pleasing and, like, recognizing and learning the different volumes of my voice and the appropriate time and the volume and how to, like, articulate my voice, and what it reminds me of learning how to play the violin.
Mhm.
And it reminds me of, all the stuff that I learned even around self-regulation and being
Yes.
able to kind of know, if we're going if without self-regulation, we may have these really high moments, well, then we're gonna have to, like, crash.
Yeah.
And how are we, learning how to self-regulate in healthy ways?
Yeah, and I think when you deprive yourself of your authenticity, of, like, your
Mhm.
true voice,
Yeah.
and you suppress that, it does come out. It either comes out in anger,
Mhm.
or it can come out in things like anxiety or, other ways, because your body has to have a way of processing that
Mhm.
somehow, and there's only so long you can shove things down and repress all of that
Yeah.
before, things start happening in your body. Like, I really do think you physical manifestation of emotional stuff is true.
Mhm. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, like, I know I struggled with things like anxiety, or, I'd feel really anxious over things that were really benign. And I mean, you'd think it's that like fight or flight. My body couldn't decipher whether or not it was an email or there was truly a tiger coming to eat me. Like, it was all the
Yeah.
same to my
Yeah.
to my body.
Yeah. When I started in the workforce after graduating college, like, I would be petrified anytime a manager would ask me outside of a scheduled meeting to come to their office. I'm like, "Oh, they're gonna fire me." It was like, there's no reason. I was doing
Yeah.
well, yet that was the first thought, that was a voice inside of my head. How
Yeah.
bad is that? How bad?
Yeah. Well, I trust me, I've the same voices lived in my head, so you're not saying anything new or weird to me. So I wanna segue, we've talked about
Yeah.
people pleasing, kind of
Mhm.
some of the things that come with that, but segmenting into decision making,
Mm.
and, like, we talked about through the lens of identity,
Yeah.
and, if we just think about what we talked about with people pleasing and knowing yourself,
Mhm.
sort of owning your true voice,
Mhm.
that really does segue into how we make
Yes.
decisions
Yes.
and the confidence that we may or may have in our decision making.
Yeah.
Because if I would imagine if you're trying to please someone else, your decision making is also going to be flawed.
Oh, 100%. And that's why it's such a beautiful segue because I would say also, as a recovering people pleaser and, in becoming self aware and coming out of that, I was able to also understand, well, what do I value? What is like core to who? Who
Yeah.
is Mindy? And what do and if this is what I value, how does that then tie into how I make decisions? And so
Mhm.
also in getting really clear about values also helped as an antidote to people pleasing
Yeah. Yeah.
and being able to understand what are the things that I lean into and not, and how to articulate my voice around those things. And so the value work is some of the and realignment of the value work was so key, especially as I started a business.
Yeah. Yeah, I would imagine your entrepreneurship would you have to be clear on who you
Mhm.
are, what you want, what you're going after, and if you are trying to do things for others, I would imagine that would feel very frustrating and or would hamper your ability to make progress in
Yeah.
your business.
Yeah. 100%. And then even realizing the difference between values and beliefs. That
Yeah.
beliefs can change, right, as we take in new data and process it and learn, and it can modify, our beliefs because we may not have known something to be true or not, and then as we noodle on that, and that for me was also, "Oh, wow, that is a game changer," whereas our values are core to who we are often uniquely created to be, don't, like, change. It may change some, but they don't typically change.
Yeah. Well, and your quote belief in who you are may
Yes,
not be
yes,
accurate because you
yes!
believe something about yourself that's not
Yeah,
true because of this sort of haze that you've put over. You're not operating with like clear glasses of how who
yes,
you are and how you show up to people.
right, exactly, and so that for me was such a huge, aha moment of like, "Oh, the separation of beliefs and values."
Yeah. So you had mentioned something around the difference between when you talk about decision making, changing yourself versus changing your environment.
Mhm.
And how what's the difference between the two? And how do I ensure that I'm not necessarily changing myself and or my values
Yeah,
aren't changing
yeah,
based on the environment, even though I have to sort of adapt to different circumstances and environments?
mhm, mhm. And, yeah, because often, right, it's also about understanding, okay, in decision making, we have a choice, like even in how we are going to respond to something. And
Hmm.
so, you know, so for me, like, how am I showing up in this moment? Is there different ways in which I can respond or feel or behave? And that's intrinsic to me versus extrinsic within my environment that I may need to alter and to change, and to understand that those two variables are, at play. um, is really key. And so, one of those, even my beliefs, like, right, that's
Yeah.
another thing about
Yeah.
myself that I can change. And so, or my physical capability, I can change my physical capability of
Hmm.
things. But I think those is really powerful because when you're in a less than place, the mindset is often the world is happening to me,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And when you move out of that and you get clear on, what you are able to then, own, and in a place of what I always like to say, what's the opposite of scarcity and less than is abundance,
Hmm.
and being able to know what I do have the ability to adapt and change both within my environment and in myself.
Yeah. Well, the one constant, whether we're talking about our environment or ourself, is that we are fully in control over how we respond to situations. And
Yeah.
so I
Yes.
think if you can own that you have control over nothing else, you have control over you, right? And how you
Yeah.
respond, how you're going to act, how you're going to
Yeah.
show up. Even simple things like you've had a rough day, you get that email and you just want to fire off something. I've really learned how to sit with something for a while and then
Yep.
respond because
Mhm.
I know if I respond in the moment, I'm probably not gonna I might be snarky or I might say something I don't wanna say, but there's no there it doesn't make things different because I sit with it for 20 minutes or even 24 hours. I can still respond, but then I respond
Yeah.
in a way that is much more honoring of myself, but,
Mhm.
also respect and honoring the other person.
Yes. Well, and that's like huge, like difference if we even tie it back to people pleasing. And as a recovering people pleaser, I would often like be responding too
Mhm,
quick
mhm.
or like wanting to control things that I should not be trying to control.
Yeah,
Um, and and that could also be like out of a goodness of my heart, like trying to control situations to help other people,
right,
which which always would end up then Mindy being the life preserver for someone when that then is not empowering and equipping them to be their own life preserver.
yeah,
And so that was like a huge also, when it comes to decision making and say, okay, these are the things I value and and I can still stand, I can still I'm actually more of a help to people when it's not coming from a less than place of people
mhm,
pleasing. Because
yeah,
now I'm holding space of who am I and where do I stop versus where is the other person and where they stop and truly coming alongside someone to be able to equip them and empower them because it's about them and not me.
right, right, yeah. So clarity, like clarity of, okay, once we get through maybe our people pleasing, clarity about who we are, our
Yes.
decision making, how we're
Yeah.
going to make decisions that honor our values and
Yep.
ourselves.
Yes.
And then kind of thinking through, okay, if that's how I'm going to show up, what are the
Mhm.
things that I should maybe be doing differently to
Mhm.
show up that way? So
Yeah.
obviously, depending on your role, I mean, if you're thinking about, say, you're a mom, hopefully that gives you some more patience. I think it's funny as a parent, we talk about, and you hear a lot about how sometimes your kids will trigger things in you that are wounds and you respond in a certain way because you're responding from that place of like woundedness.
Mhm.
And so I've had people ask me things like, "Oh, I'm getting a teenager, or, what do you think?" Because my kids are a little bit older now. And I've said, look, they're going to say things and you can't take it personally
Right.
because when you
Right.
start taking that personally, then you respond negatively. And if
Mhm.
you can just hold space for my kids are their brains aren't developed. They don't know what they're saying most of the time.
Yeah.
It's not
Right.
really a personal attack on me. They're just being kids. Then it helps you process in the moment a lot
Mhm.
differently than feeling like it's
Mhm.
a personal attack or wound.
Yes.
Or like if you're at work, right, and you maybe have someone you work with that it feels like they're on you or they're kind of difficult to work with, what are the ways that you can show up? How do you honor your values, be respectful, and but hold the line, right? Like maybe there's
Mhm.
things you have to hold the line for. And I think that's what
Yeah.
you were sort of talking about like at work, right? You're having those hard
Yes.
conversations with people.
Yeah, exactly. And being able to, you know, be I know as a, leader with someone and I mean, because we have a lot if we're doing this from an idealistic space,
Mhm.
right? And we're, as a leader, if we build the muscle around this, able to sit with someone in these uncomfortable conversations, there's this level of like, "Hey, I see you. This isn't just about let's get the work done.
Yeah.
Let's actually I care about you. Like
Yeah.
let's have like a conversation here and work through it like together." Now, you're not solving it for them either
Mhm.
because you're have that curiosity. You're seeking to understand. You're co-creating with them. It's a dialogue. It's a
Mhm.
two-way conversation
Mhm.
and you as a leader do then as need to be aware of how your own emotions are showing up in that conversation. Are you ready to step into that conversation?
Yeah.
Or are you holding on to frustration from a past meeting?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
be we can't just we've so often moved from meeting to meeting to meeting to meeting, but we need to really think through, you know, what is the context? What is the hoped for outcome in this difficult conversation? Have I prepared for that? And am I okay to enter into that so that
Mhm.
when I am there, I am not reacting, I'm responding, and I am
Yeah.
truly, truly listening and seeking to understand. And I'm not trying to force this to the outcome I believe. Obviously, we can have a target of what we think it should go to, but how are we, honoring who that unique individual is to get towards, together what that the better out it may be even better. Like I think of
Yeah.
improv of yes and but I can't that's where I need to make sure where am I starting to filter in my own things
Mhm.
versus it being about them. And I think that requires a lot of emotional intelligence and it's not easy because we're messy humans and we're not going to get it right every time. But there is this level of space that we do need to take to be aware and clear so that we don't emotionally contaminate that room and that we're
Yeah.
not filtering things from what they're saying, that we're not filtering it to fill an agenda that we may have that
Yeah.
maybe we're not even aware of. And I think we
Yeah.
just talked about a whole lot of stuff in
I
just
know.
a
It's all
little
good stuff
space.
though. No, it's so good because it's all woven together. It's all sort of
Yeah.
from the same place. And I think ultimately the thread here is, connection and
Hmm.
wanting to be seen and wanting to be valued. And so I think that's a good way to like move into the
Yeah.
topic of networking
Yes.
because I I mean, really honestly, have really struggled with this concept of networking. And part of it is I think for a long time I was so head down on just like work and kids and trying to get through the day with all the things I had going on. The thought of quote networking overwhelmed me. I think the other piece is I have been told I can be kind of an intense person. I love deep conversation and I love getting into deep topics and I'm okay to be animated in, the way that I talk. And so the small talk thing, the walking up to people and
Hmm.
introducing yourself and having something to talk about, I found challenging, but I do think that when you open yourself up to community, you learn not only about them, but you learn a lot about you. And it really can help you open a whole new world of just
Hmm.
thinking about things and people that you can tap and bounce ideas off and it's not so scary once you kind of
Hmm.
start doing it. So why
Yeah.
is this important? Like what's the importance of networking
Oh my
in
goodness,
your
like
mind?
so many reasons, but I just had a point on what you just said there because that was
Yeah.
a reframe I needed
Uh-huh.
was community.
Yeah.
It's about building community,
Yeah.
Lindsay. And so once I had someone help me create that reframe in my brain, because otherwise it felt like salesy, it felt
Mhm.
transactional, it felt
Yeah.
like I'm being sold something. It's like I don't really, you don't even really care about me.
Yeah.
It's about the other person. Um, but when I reframed and how might we make networking look like something, Mindy, that is, of you value. And well, I mean, that's Mindy, or you're all about people. Like
Yeah.
this is about is about community building. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, yes, I am all in on that. And the why of that is because I mean, I wouldn't be where I am today. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for community. Like
Mhm.
because of the community I grew up in, like that's like and all the people that I had in my life, the mentors, and I was willing to, I had some incredible managers that modeled such great leadership,
Yeah.
and that it's okay to ask for help. And my we had to ask for help when we were younger, although there was a lot of like, we put on like happy faces when we were always happy. um and it was really hard to ask for help. Like, it had to be
Yeah.
really bad to ask for
Yeah.
help. But that's what I mean, we need each other. We can't do any of this on our own. And so for networking, it's exactly what you said. It's about, do we have the right beliefs? Do we have people in our life that just look and sound like us? So
Mhm.
let's go find some other let's go find some others. We have to get uncomfortable, but let's find some other viewpoints because
Yeah.
I want to know, is this right or not? What am I missing? I want to meet other people that have like gone ahead of me, that
Mhm.
have already made a pathway, that have learned the hard way and
Yeah.
can help me get there faster. And also that can introduce me to other amazing, like
Yeah.
cool people and be able to, help make things possible that aren't but that I can't just do like on my own. There's so many doors that can come open
Yeah.
when you bring people together to do life together. And I just think there's so many and feeling and also there's a sense of when we come together,
Mhm.
when I started researching even shame, we heal. We heal shame in community
Mhm.
by coming together because there's this level of validation of like, "Oh, I see you and I hear you and wow, that's I
Yeah.
didn't know that." And someone's listening to your story
Yeah.
and you're feeling seen. And
Yeah.
there's so much beauty of like, "Oh, I am worthy. I
Yeah.
am worthy." And the networking, the community aspect of us doing life together and needing each other to help each other, I get so passionate about. I don't often talk about it as networking, but it is about the reciprocity and the value of human relationship and how we get to know not just what we do, but
Yeah.
who we are
Yeah.
and how we can come alongside each other to amplify and be ambassadors like for each other.
Yeah. I love that. I think there's a sense too, like you said, just going back to sometimes, it can feel salesy and sometimes it can. Like, let's be real. Sometimes you
Yeah,
go to events or things and you're like, no, I wasn't really interested in buying your CRM tool, but it's nice to meet you.
me too.
Um, But in a lot of cases, also just showing up authentic and vulnerable a little bit. I mean, if you introduced yourself to someone and started talking and just said, "I'm gonna be really honest, I'm struggling to know what to say next," that can even open up a dialogue. They'd be like, "Oh
Mhm.
my gosh, me too. Hey, these
Yeah.
things are so awkward sometimes." And then, you start talking, right? So I think sometimes it's also just about, are you willing to sort of put yourself out there, be authentic, be vulnerable. The other thing is just in terms of opening doors. So,
Mhm.
I mean, just to
Yep.
like share about even you and I mean, you and I met very organically through, a program that you were offering. And
Well, even before that, oh yeah, it was a
it
program
was through
because
that. Yeah. But we found out we had a
Betsy, yeah,
mutual connection.
yep.
Yeah. But, like that then turned into, me tapping you for, "Hey, do you have any ideas about this?" And then it turned into a different so the relationship built very organically, not
Mhm.
just because I met you at an event or I met you through something and then I called you and said, "I need a favor," right? It was building that, to your point. It was building the community, building the relationship before you engage in the transaction, the, "Hey,
Yes.
let's get into the
Yeah.
next thing." I think a lot of people are open to, I mean, "Hey, I met you at this event. I'm having this issue. I just want someone to bounce an idea off of. Would
Yeah.
you be willing to get on a call with me for 30 minutes?" Right? Something like that, right? Where that could build community too, and build that network and that
Yeah.
friendship. But it's like anything else, it's built on building connection and trust and relationship.
Yes. I mean, yes, and Lizzie, like when I hear that, it's what's coming up for me is an invitation. So
Yeah.
I also, when I started, being an entrepreneur, you're like, okay, I built it. Why is no one coming? Well, you gotta tell people about it, Mindy. You gotta tell people about it. And I didn't want to I felt salespeople were transactional. I'm like, well,
Yeah.
how do I do that? Stay true to who I am, my values, and and then for me, a coach shifted that to be it's all about mindset, Lindsay, first of all.
Yeah.
It was about, well, Mindy, you're inviting people into what you're uniquely created to do and help people with, and it's an invitation. It's just an invitation. You're inviting them, "Hey, would you
Yeah.
be willing to get on a call and brainstorm through some things?"
Yeah.
And then that might lead to, "Hey, you know what? I work with individuals in this different way. What might that look like? What are your different than, business offerings that, and yes, I mean, at some point there is a transaction of a payment.
Yeah,
um,
yeah,
but they're all like invitation after invitation after the relationship and the trust that you just mentioned.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, and I just think it's important. I mean, especially if you just wanna go the career route, right, for networking. I mean, we can all look back in relationships that we've built, whether it's through a prior job or whatever, where, I have people that I've known now since my very first job
Mhm.
ever that I'm still friends with or
Yes.
connected with and talking to, learning from, people in your industry where they have different ideas like you said. They have different experiences that might unlock something for you as you're thinking about your own job or a problem you're
Mhm.
facing or something like that. You know, the amount of opportunity we have for networking in all the facets of our lives too, right? We think about it in a career perspective, but it's in all facets. It's in, maybe I need to join a group because I have ailing parents and I need support and I'm going to
Yeah.
join that networking group. Or maybe I have little kids and I'm looking for community because I feel like I'm at home alone. Or I remember I'm a working mom with little kids. And it felt like all the moms were doing things without me because I was at work and they were
Mm.
staying home. So, how did I find that community of other like minded moms that I could hang
Yeah.
with? Right. So I think you have to be a little creative too and think about
Mhm.
how do I go build some community?
Yeah.
And maybe you have to start it. Like maybe you're
Yeah,
the one
yeah.
that has to say, okay, I don't have a community. I need to find my people. I'm going to start something so that I have a community.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe it's on you to start it.
Well, going back to the decision making, yeah. I mean, that's like 100%. Like, 'cause I think in the networking too, the decision making is really important as well with value alignment. Um, And, I think community can be with like-minded people, but it also could be spaces for, you know, people of different like points of view. And how do you create a safe container for them to have like conversations? Obviously you're there. It may be around, you have a shared cause in mind, but we all have this, level of respect and value alignment, but we may have different beliefs,
Right.
right?
Right.
Um, and I mean, I think that, and that's the beauty of like networking, right? We can have people, coming from different, aspects of life and that have seen like different things. And, they may be in spaces that we don't usually get to explore, in, where we are, but that helps us be able to then it opens a door to something that wouldn't have been possible without that person. Does that
Exactly.
make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think too, like it's not always immediate, right? So
Right.
it may be something where you meet someone or you build a little bit of a relationship and it's 2, 3, 5 years down the
Mhm.
line and something comes full circle and you're
Yes.
like, oh my gosh, I remember this person or I've got this person in
Mhm.
my community or my network and that's the
Yeah.
perfect person for XYZ. So I think it's also about just being patient and
Mhm.
expect your expectation, right? So if it is a sales pitch, you're like, I'm just going in to sell you something, that's a very different
That's
expectation. But if
that's
it's
different.
truly about networking and building community,
Yeah.
your expectation has to be tempered to like building that, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
Not
exactly. Because
immediate.
you are exactly right. It's often not immediate. It's often not immediate, and it's often about, how can we equally help each other and support each other in that, relationship building.
Yeah. Yeah. So what would you say, I mean, just given like the totality of this conversation, thinking about going from people pleasing to our decision making and then our networking and building community. I mean, is there anything that you think would be important to leave the listeners with? If someone's like, gosh, this really resonated with me, maybe it's someone who is like, I don't where how do I find the time for this? I think that's usually our response
Mhm.
to
Yeah.
everything is like,
Yeah.
okay, I hear you, but I have no time. I'm maxed out, right? Where's my
Yeah.
white space to like lean into all these things? What would you suggest for people? Like how would they start maybe?
This is one of those goes back to, like, what can we and can we not control about our environment and our mindset around time, and where might we be spending time that, that it isn't value aligned, that's numbing, that's maybe not serving us, that we can let go of to then create the space for something else. Where are the
Yeah.
things that we might be able to start saying no to? Because now we're clear on our values and our decision making, and we don't say yes to everything. And we start to say no to what we were spending our time with in order to create the space. And how do we create then the space and make the time to do some of these things? That's often the first thing. I often really invite people into, what might it look like if you had the opportunity to, be, have control of your calendar,
Yeah. Yeah.
versus letting everyone else control your calendar. um, and where might there be things we can stop doing to start doing other things, and how does that feel to even reflect on that? And the other thing is sometimes we try to chunk in too much, and then we say, see, it didn't work. And so what's
Yeah.
just one thing? I usually say just one thing.
Yeah.
And what feels right now in your world that's doable? Okay, once a quarter, let's start like once a quarter. Let's just try once a quarter. And like, what is an area of joy? Like maybe it's not even tied to work. Maybe it's something that you're passionate about. Maybe it's volunteering at a non like an animal shelter and walking dogs and meeting other volunteers while you're doing that. Right? It can look in a lot of different ways. And so that's where, I mean, I think the takeaway is like we um, build up like everything as so big.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking, okay, let's just break it down. And
Yeah.
and what is the one thing that we can do?
Yeah. I love that. I'm kind of like that. Sometimes I have the all or nothing mentality,
Yeah.
right? I've got to do all the things or nothing at all. Yeah, and I think it just goes back to that people pleasing, which is when you say look at your calendar. I mean, I think
Yes.
I said I had all this stuff to do, but the reality is I was probably doing things because it's stuff I thought I had to do or that people expected me to
Mhm.
do.
Mhm.
And creating boundaries for you, like where do I need to create some boundaries and
Yes.
time blocking for myself? So if I need to go to therapy 1 hour a week or 1 hour a
Yeah.
month, I need to be sure that I make that time for that 1 hour a month, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
do that one thing. Um, because if I don't invest the time to do it now, all I'm prolonging the
Right.
exercise. Like, I still have to do it at
Yeah.
some point in my life, but do I wanna start now or do I wanna start in 5 years to do something
Yeah.
like that?
Yeah.
So
And and that's kinda like a tactical kind of takeaway. How I make that is a decision matrix, and I've kind of
mm,
remembered it now, but I have it up here of a little magnet board over here that I put it up on.
yeah.
But it's about, identifying your purpose, which for me was I help workplaces thrive because society needs businesses that prioritize well-being people.
Mhm.
Mission was healing culture through connected communities. My values are leadership, relationships, mission, exploration, and joy. And
I love
then
it.
I have like goals that are no longer the goals of this season, but
Yeah.
they were under that. And I would say, okay, I also had how does that feel in my body? And for me, when I like to have the concept of full body yes. And
Mhm.
I usually I do my groove move when I'm a full body yes. And then I go through the things of what's yes and no. And if there's more yeses, it's a yes decision. If it's a no, then it's a no decision.
Yeah.
So that really started helping me kind of even start to articulate and bringing these things truly to life. So it wasn't
Mhm.
just something I was talking about, but that it was actually informing true decision making and behavior change.
Yeah. I love that. I'm gonna have to steal your decision tree. I love the dance too. Maybe I'll start doing that.
You can, you can.
I appreciate that. It sounds like then being here today was part of your yes on your tree, so
Yes,
I really
yes.
appreciate
I
that we
started
were
out
we were
like,
on the
I'm
yes.
ready. Yeah, yeah.
Well, this has been fun. I think, things that resonate with me and I know resonate with a lot of the women that I'm already in community with. It's interesting too. I think we all have to be in a place where we're ready to accept it. So there's an acceptance piece, I think, behind all of this, which is
Mhm.
we can say we're frustrated, we're tired, we're all of these things that we keep saying out loud and telling ourselves. But at some point, we have to decide, is this how I want to keep doing things, or do I want to do something different? And all of us will come to that place differently.
Mhm.
I know it took me a long, 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 long time to get to that place.
Yeah.
But once you make that decision, it's almost like going backwards is an impossibility because
Yeah.
you're so focused on the forward momentum, the changes you're making. Once you start to know yourself and honor yourself and like your values,
Mhm.
going back doing it the way you did before is it feels yucky and like
Yes.
impossible. So I,
Yeah.
I think there's this very significant shift that starts to take place. And then you just start operating from that place of
Yeah.
abundance and like this is truly honoring who I am as a
Mhm.
person, and
Yeah.
I'm not gonna go back to being the person that did things that didn't
No.
honor me.
No, because that for me, that less than scarcity place was a cage
Yeah.
that I thought the door was locked on, and I didn't even realize I was in a cage.
Yeah.
And then you get aware that you're and then you just wanna, like, get out. And then I don't
And you
even
have the key. You don't even realize you're in the
yes!
cage and you have your own
Yeah,
key
but
to get yourself
yes,
out.
yes, yes,
Yeah.
or there's no need for a key and the door is
Is
not
open.
is open, it's
Yeah.
open. Because
Yeah.
then once you're out, then you're like, "Oh my goodness, I could have been living over here?" Like,
Yeah.
this is possibility. This
Yes.
is and it's just so much more and I'm not saying life is easy. It's
No.
hard, but it's through the hard that we transform and, that we get refined and we
Yeah.
become resilient.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. I think that's a great place for us to leave off today.
Yeah.
Such good conversation, such good advice. Thank you so much. And we'll see. I don't know, maybe there'll be a third
Hey,
on this
Lindsay,
podcast with
I
Mindy.
will always be here with you. If you want
Oh,
me, I
thank
will
you.
be here.
All
It's
right.
such an honor. I've always wanted to come back to a podcast. People always say that. They always say, "We'd love to have you back." And I'm like, "Please do. This is the first time I've had a chance to come back." So I love it. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, okay, then we'll have to set the record. Maybe you'll have a third time to
A
come back.
third time.
Yes. Well, thanks again, Mindy. I really appreciate it. And we'll make sure that everybody's linked to you and how to get a hold of you if they have any questions or want to know a little bit more about what you're doing.